This is the Harry Morgan Show with your host, Dr. Harry Morgan. The Harry Morgan Show brings you Christianity in focus. On the last episode, we started with certain historical perspectives, talking about history, that everything has a history. So the Ghanaian Christian or Ghanaian Christianity also has a history. You made mention of people who surfaced from somewhere, talking about their own Christianity that does not. But you landed on Paul and the cross. Now, we want to look at the reflection, what the cross means. You gave some details. Cross and Christianity. What are your views?
Well, I think I made the point that, and I will repeat it, that if you go around the country, if you go around any city or any of the major cities, and you just look, you don't have to take my word for it. Whatever I'm saying, you have to go out there and look. If you just look as you are traveling at various churches, church buildings, it is very likely that some of them do not have a cross on them.
Yes. You said that in the last episode.
And I don't think that that is trivial. Now, what I want to say is that a Christianity without the cross is not true Christianity.
So if I have the cross hanging around my neck, I am a Christian.
I didn't say that.
Or if you go to my village, my mother's father actually started the Roman Catholic Church in our village. Now, on our house, the house he built is just by the roadside. Okay, when you are going to Asante Mampong, just after the good Nintin is specifically the place I'm talking about. And you see my grandfather's house with a cross by the roadside. So does that symbol mean my family is Christian? Or my grandfather having a cross?
It's a very good question.
Yes.
But symbols do a lot of things.
Yes.
And even some of the churches don't have crosses on the outside. They may have somewhere in the church where there's a cross.
Yes.
Now, the reason why it matters if the church building has or doesn't have a cross is that the cross is speaking both to the Christian and to the non-Christian.
How does that mean?
The cross is a reminder to the Christian of the cost, the price of his redemption.
The cross is a reminder
to
the Christian of the price or the cost of his redemption. Very deep.
There is nothing that we have as Christians through the gospel of Jesus Christ that we possess without the cross of Christ. The cross is the means of our salvation. If there is no cross, there is nothing. If there is no cross, there is no salvation. So when Paul says that I wish to know nothing except the cross, that is what Paul means. The cross is everything. It was an instrument of torture. It was an instrument of a horrific death. The Romans were celebrated for how they used the cross to terrify people. The slave rebellion of Spartacus, they hung people on the cross on the way, along the highway. The specific thing that they did to Jesus Christ was supposed to communicate a message of humiliation and abject state for the person. So a Christianity that doesn't even think of the cross is problematic to begin with. Okay. Now, merely having the cross is not a proof that you're a Christian.
Okay.
But not having the cross is even worse. Do you get?
I want you to explain that.
Well, So what is the basis of your redemption
Mhm.
if there is no cross?
Somebody will say that that cross of my redemption was on Calvary, the mountain. So that is one cross. So what is the essence of the ones we are carrying about?
Oh no, I didn't say you are carrying it.
That is like
The cross is a symbol
mhm.
to you as a Christian
Okay.
to remind you.
Okay, so it's a reminder.
It's a reminder.
Okay.
And it's important. This business of reminding is not. Some people will say it's not a joke.
Mm.
Right? If you read the Hebrew Bible, one of the most important statements that repeats itself, and it's repeated.
Yes.
My people do not what? Remember.
Mm.
My people do not remember. It is about history.
Mm.
It's about recollection.
Mm.
It's about remembering.
Mm.
So when a Christian church puts the cross on the church, it is a reminder to Christians. This church does not exist without the cross.
Mm.
The gospel does not exist without the cross. And the gospel we preach is the gospel of the cross of Jesus Christ that brought us into the presence of God so that now we are whole. We have been cleansed of our sin. We have been restored to live a life what? In Christ.
So live a life in Christ, bringing that, all that you have said, into our country, Ghana.
Let me go on.
Okay.
I was making the point that it's not just a symbol to the Christian,
Mhm.
but the cross is also a symbol to the non-Christian.
Okay.
This is the means of your redemption,
Mm.
if you will believe it.
Mm.
Okay. So here I am as this person from outer space, and I show up in Ghana. And I go and I see churches without crosses. Right? What gospel are they preaching?
The gospel of the cross in the Bible.
No. Because they are not, when I listen to them preach, they don't even talk about the cross. It doesn't exist. It's not part of their consciousness.
Do you believe, or would you say that is the cause of the decline in morality?
No,
and
I'm not even going to say that.
Okay.
But I'm making an even more central point.
Mm.
But what are they preaching instead? If I come to them, I will receive God's favor.
That is what you have heard.
Yes.
Okay.
That is what I have seen.
That is what you have seen.
Yes.
That
if I come to
non-believer,
so yes.
Come to the pastor.
Yes.
Come to the preacher.
Yes.
Okay.
And half of the time, I mean, I listen to sermons quite a bit. Half of the time they are preaching themselves. They are not preaching Jesus and the cross of Christ. They are preaching themselves.
Mm.
So some people are insisting, well, my revelations tell you what God wants for you. The cross is nowhere in their preaching. Did so and so die for you?
Mm.
Did Prophet A die on the cross for you?
Mm.
So why is Prophet A's picture on the church, but the cross of Christ is nowhere to be found on the church? I can name specific churches. I'll give you an example, but this will get me in trouble. Dansum and Asori Down.
Yes.
A few of our churches have their headquarters there.
Okay.
And here's the interesting thing. Some of those headquarters don't have crosses on them. If I say that is a problem, you might say, well, what difference does the cross make? If you tell me, or if you say, what difference does the cross make? You don't understand Christianity.
Hmm.
If the cross doesn't make any difference to your understanding of Christianity, to your experience of Christianity, to your living faith as a Christianity, you don't know what Christianity is. And that is not me saying.
Yes, you are making reference to the Apostle Paul.
Now, why is all of this necessary to answer the question you ask about morality?
Yes.
Let me put it this way, and I hope I'm not overstating, right? A Christian or somebody who says he's a follower of Jesus,
Mhm.
who lives, and I'm using some of the hints, who lives at the foot of the cross, will not live an immoral life.
Anybody
Yes.
who lives,
Yes. A follower of
a
Jesus,
follower of Jesus,
who lives at the foot of the cross.
I want you to say that to the camera.
You are going to
To
get me
the
in
viewer.
trouble.
Yes.
Any follower of Jesus who lives his life at the foot of the cross will not be an immoral person.
So what accounts for the immorality that goes on? Look, I can cite examples. The examples I can cite, you.
Okay, I'll give you a different way of approaching it.
I love this one.
You love this one.
I want this one.
You want this
This is a straightforward, blunt statement.
It's a blunt statement.
You understand? Now, you see, we have people like who I was trying to make some assertions. Yes, just to bring out certain facts or statements of facts regarding Christianity.
No, what does Jesus say?
Mhm.
Take up your cross and follow me.
Mhm. During that time, he was not yet on that cross of Calvary,
Well,
and yet he was talking about the cross.
yes, he says, take up your cross and follow me.
So that
Because
cross
the cross was a symbol that they understood.
in the Romans, to the Romans or to the Jews.
To the Jews, everybody in the first century knew what a cross was. You can read Cicero even before the first century, and he will talk about the humiliation of the cross.
No, as a historian,
Yes.
I just want you to give certain historical records because you have made mention of anything without a history.
It is humiliating.
Okay.
It is. You don't. A Roman to die on the cross was like unthinkable. Right?
Mm.
It was unthinkable. It is the very bottom.
The worst punishment.
Yes.
Or the worst of humiliation.
Well, it is a humiliation, and often left you on the cross for you to, for the birds to. So when you are talking about the cross, you are not talking about something. Let me put it this way, and this will sound so crazy, right? You cannot talk about somebody embracing the cross and then having them living a life of luxury. It will sound dramatic. But the two, just try to juxtapose those two things.
Yes.
Of the life of the cross.
Because you cannot embrace
a
life giving you through humiliation,
yes,
and leave it in luxury.
Yes, you just can't. They are. It's a cognitive dissonance.
But today, I listened to one young preacher who says that even if you're a man of God and you don't have a car, God has not called you. Okay. And they equate.
Yeah, so that is why I want to go back to the cross.
Yes.
Because that is what I know from what Paul says, and that is what I know from what Jesus says. Take up your cross and follow me. Now, some people can allegorize that statement. Oh, taking up your cross is just your own personal troubles. No. Literally, people were having to take up crosses, right? And even other people know that the cross meant something to Christians.
Like?
Some Christians have died with the cross in their hands, right?
Specific examples.
They were being persecuted.
Yes, which area?
Historically.
Do you understand?
Yes,
I'm bringing out these things because of the skeptic who is listening to us.
You can go and read this.
Yes.
First century, second century, all throughout, even in China. Okay, there was the Chinese woman who, do you know what she did? She was in prison. She would take the blood, her own blood, and she would be writing her poem. She was a Christian. That is how she preserved her poetry and her witness as a Christian. Okay. Even as we speak today, there are Christians on the African continent who are being killed today because they are Christians.
Yes.
Okay. But you will go to...
Even it's happening in Nigeria.
Yes. You will go to church tomorrow, and hardly anybody in church, fellow Christians in Ghana, hardly anybody will say a prayer for those Christians.
Where do we?
So where is our Christian consciousness?
Yes.
Because they are living, you see, that life underneath the cross.
So that brings us to the kind of Christianity
Well,
we have. We cannot even limit it just to Ghana, but because we are taking a case for
yes,
Ghana.
this is where
yes,
we are.
Yes.
So my point is, I'm not trying to say that everybody can live some kind of heroic life. That
Yes.
is not the point that I'm making. I'm talking about the very content.
No,
of
it's
our-
a central
yes, the
point
very
that you
content-
cannot do without.
You can do it.
Yes.
Okay. You just can't do without the cross and say that you are a follower of Jesus Christ.
Do we have liberal Christians?
I'll leave that aside for a moment.
Okay.
But let me go back because I shared this with you
Yes.
at another time when we were talking about some of the stuff. There is this book called Society Without God,
Yes.
right? And the reason why the book is interesting and important for us in Ghana is that it touches on the question of morality or the kind of society you want to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The writer is talking about Denmark and Sweden
Yes.
that are currently societies without God, right? But in Denmark and also in Sweden, these two Scandinavian countries, they have very low crime rate. They have people who are very content. They are happy. They are very law-abiding. They have a good economy.
Mm-hmm.
They have good social relations. Okay. They have good health care. They are happy. So when you look at, so the writer is talking about society without God.
Society without God.
Yes. And his point is, and he was writing actually from an American context, where a lot of American Christians have been making the case that if you have a godless society, which for them meant a Christian-less society, that is why in the beginning I made that comparison.
Yes.
You know, America has been about 70% Christian.
Yes.
Okay. These Americans have always been saying that if we have a less Christian society, we will not be happy and we will not be moral.
Mm-hmm.
So it touches on your question. But here is the thing. The writer is pointing out, if you go to Denmark and Sweden, the majority of them say they don't believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
They don't believe in hell. They don't believe in punishment. They don't believe in any of this. Okay.
Not even the meaning of life.
Well, let me just give you
Yes.
the bare essential. So here is the society without God, which if you follow the American preachers, should be immoral,
Mm-hmm.
unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
and socially dysfunctional, falling apart.
Yes.
But this is not what you're going to find in Denmark or Sweden.
The opposite is true.
Okay. So
Yes.
here's the thing. Morally, on the outside, from the law and corruption and so on and so forth, all those indices, Denmark is better than Ghana. Don't overreact.
I'm not. No, I've actually read the book, and then the writer makes the case that he even walked the street of Denmark and never saw one policeman.
Yes. Okay. So here is the thing.
Unlike Ghana, that they're everywhere.
So you see what is happening in Denmark.
Mhm.
They are without the God of
The Bible,
the Bible. They are without the God of the Christians, right?
without the cross.
Without the cross.
Yes.
But they have a good society. They are content. And the Ghana that has gone up to the 70% Christian
Mm-hmm.
has all the negative indicators. So I'm answering your question in two ways.
Yes.
On two levels. First of all, I could simply say, well, Ghana doesn't need God.
Mm-hmm.
If you use the Scandinavian example.
Because even with God.
No. I'm not even coming to the even with
Okay.
God part. That's the second.
Okay.
So Ghana doesn't need God because it could just follow the Scandinavian example.
Mhm.
And given Ghana's record right now, perhaps the Scandinavian example will solve our problems, right? Because they are without God, but all the social indications, they are better off.
But don't you think that if you study the Scandinavian story, they have a Lutheran background?
Yes, I'll get to that.
Okay.
Because
I want to bring it in because from a historical perspective,
yes, but
how did they get to where they are? That they lost track with God
Okay.
or
let me answer the Ghanaian part that I wanted
Okay.
to get. So you set that one aside, and then you come to Ghana and say, okay, with all your godness,
Mhm.
you have all these negative indicators.
Yes.
Now, if I don't want to do the cynical thing that I did before and say, you have become Christian and I've become worse,
Mhm.
then what I have to say, if I still believe that the gospel is what the gospel is,
Mhm.
because of what I said, that
Yes.
if the person is at the foot of the cross, he
He
will
cannot
not be more.
Yes.
Then what I will have to say is that there is something fundamentally and inherently wrong with your Christianity. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yes.
Such that it doesn't produce the truth, holiness, godliness, righteousness, justice, and so on.
So our kind of Christianity is wrong.
Well,
Or on the
our
wrong premise.
kind.
That is what I'm making.
Yes.
Our kind of Christianity.
And that is just an empirical observation.
Yes, because at the end of the day, more or less, our kind of Christianity does not reflect what Christianity represents should be.
Yes.
Yes.
So whether we like it or not,
Mhm.
this fact we have to accept. There is something fundamentally wrong with our Christianity in Ghana.
Mm.
If we don't accept that, there is no way anything will change.
That is the fact.
There is something fundamentally wrong with all the Christianities we are seeing in Ghana. There is something fundamentally wrong with this. Otherwise, we will not be in the state that we are in.
So all our types of Christianity and all our kinds of Christianity, or the kind of Christianity we have, that is what you want to
most
say.
of them have a problem.
Okay.
Because, and that's why I said that in the beginning that, look, there are people in this country who are Christian, who are living humbly, quietly, faithfully, and serving Jesus. Those are not the people that I'm talking about.
Yes.
I am talking about the great majority of Christians,
Yes,
or who identify as Christians, who do not actually live in such a way as to negate these realities.
On a lighter note, a politician said, if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. So if your Christian fundamentals are weak, I'm just borrowing the principle.
I don't want to be political,
no,
so I won't repeat it.
I'm not saying it in a political sense.
Yes,
I'm just borrowing the idea, the principle.
Well,
that if certain fundamentals are weak, there are certain kind of exposures or
yes, but I wouldn't even want to. I don't want to put it in that sense. It's not a question of certain fundamentals.
Because what you are saying is that there is a problem, a fundamental problem.
Well,
that is why we are seeing what we are seeing.
Yes, there is.
Yes.
Because and you know, I'm not the only one who is saying this. You can look at it even from a lot of studies that have been done up to this point on the charismatic form of Christianity we have, and also on Pentecostalism as a Christian movement.
Okay.
It's not a denomination, but as a Christian
movement. Okay.
Right. And one of the great scholars of Pentecostalism, Ogbukalu from Nigeria, the late Ogbukalu, really, really remarkable person, and several others. Okay. One of the things they have pointed out is that there is a disconnect between the discourse, the language of power that you hear in African Christianity and ethical life. So in African Christianity today, especially in the charismatic and Pentecostal or neo-Pentecostal movements, we talk a lot about power. We have power.
Where power means?
Well, power for deliverance
Okay.
from darkness and malevolent forces.
Yes, I just needed that clarity because
Yes.
some people may misconstrue it for
Yes.
authority.
Yes.
Yes.
So there is this sense of power in that deliverance mode.
Yes.
But ironically and tragically, that power doesn't translate into power in moral life.
Mm.
So in many instances, the very same people who are talking about power are the same people who are doing the immoral acts. I'll give you an example, and this was shared by a church leader recently.
Mm.
He said, he went to a gathering, and it was an all-night gathering. And so here is this leader in the church. He comes to the all-night, and after the all-night, he's going back to work. He has a late shift. And he went to work, and I think it was like a convenience store, and he needed to, take care of the store. And he actually took something he wasn't supposed to take, right? And there are cameras everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So the morning, the boss comes and he says, so-and-so, did you da-da-da-da? I says, no, I didn't do anything. The camera is there. You took something. He was angry from the all-night. So the person had gone to an all-night service and prayed his heart out.
Yet comes to steal.
Yes.
Problem.
The Mexicans would say, "¿Qué pasa?" Spanish. What's going on? Okay. Now, this reality is repeated a lot. People who are the most praying, sometimes in organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Our nephew just had an experience. One of his colleagues who prays the most. He's a pastor, right? Behaving dishonestly. They are cheating the company. He was the last person he expected. So when you made the point earlier, well, it means 70% of the bad things that are happening, it's been done by, it could be,
yes.
Because these are the figures. We have to face that reality. That's why I said, I'm not even going to talk about the nation as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just talk about the church. The 70% of us who say we are Christian,
mm-hmm.
Or belong to Christian society. What are we doing?